In the future, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. My paintings never turn out the way I expect them to, but I'm never surprised. If everybody's not a beauty, then nobody is. I tried doing them by hand, but I find it easier to use a screen. This way I don't have to work on my objects at all. One of my assistants, or anyone else for that matter, can reproduce the design as well as I could. In the future, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. The farther west we drove, the more pop everything looked on the highways. Suddenly we all felt like insiders because even though pop was everywhere, that was the thing about it. Most people still took it for granted, whereas we were dazzled by it. When you think about it, department stores are kind of like museums. I still care about people, but it'll be much easier not to. I don't want to get too close. I don't like to touch things. That's why my work is so distant from myself. I think everybody should be a machine. I think everybody should like everybody. I used to drink Campbell's soup. I used to have the same lunch every day for 20 years. I guess the same thing over and over again. Someone said my life has dominated me. I like that idea. I used to want to live at the Waldorf Towers and have a soup and sandwich like that scene in a restaurant in Naked Lunch. In the future, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. I never fall apart because I never fall together. The pop artist did images that anybody walking down Broadway could recognize in a split second. Comics, picnic tables, men's trousers, celebrities, shower curtains, refrigerators, Coke bottles, all the great modern things that abstract expressionists tried so hard not to notice at all. Truman says he can get anyone he wants. I don't want anyone I can get. When I'm really impressed, I get so nervous I can't talk. Fortunately, most of the people who work for me get so nervous they can't stop talking. Sex is nostalgia for when you used to want it. Sometimes sex is nostalgia for sex. The best atmosphere I can think of is film, because it's three-dimensional physically and two-dimensional emotionally. I think we're a vacuum here at the factory. It's great. I like being a vacuum. It leaves me alone to work. Bothered though, we have cops coming up here all the time. They think we're doing awful things, and we aren't. All my films are artificial, but then everything is sort of artificial. I don't know where the artificial stops and the real starts. There are so many people here in New York City to compete with that changing your tastes to what other people don't want is your only hope of getting anything. You really have a social disease when you make all play work. The only reason to play hard is to work hard, not the other way around like most people think. I don't think I have an image, favorable or unfavorable. In the future, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. Publicity is like eating peanuts. Once you start, you can't stop. I think movies are becoming novels, and it's terrific that people like Norman Mailer and Susan Sontag are doing movies now too. That's the new novel. Nobody's going to read anymore. It's easier to make movies. The kind of movies that we're doing are like paperbacks. They're cheaper than big books. The kids at college don't have to read anymore. They can look at movies or make them. If I ever have to cast an acting role, I want the wrong person for the part. I can never visualize the right person in a part. The right person for the right part would be too much. Besides, no person is ever completely right for any part, because a part of a role is never real. So if you can't get someone who's perfectly right, it's more satisfying to get someone who's perfectly wrong. Then you know you've really got something. History books are being rewritten all the time. It doesn't matter what you do. Everybody just goes on thinking the same thing, and every year it gets more and more alike. Those who talk about individuality the most are the ones who most object to deviation, and in a few years it may be the other way around. Someday everyone will think just what they want to think, and then everybody will probably be thinking alike. That seems to be what is happening. The thing is to think of nothing. Look, nothing is exciting, nothing is sexy, nothing is not embarrassing. The only time I ever want to be something is outside a party so I can get in. I never read, I just look at pictures. In the future, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. Interviews are like sitting in those Ford machines at the World's Fair that toured around while someone spoke a commentary. I always feel that my words are coming from behind me, not from me. The interviewer should just tell me the words he wants me to say and I'll repeat them after him. I think that would be so great because I'm so empty and I just can't think of anything to say. I suppose I have a really loose interpretation of work because I don't think that just being alive is so much work at something you don't always want to do. Being born is like being kidnapped and then sold into slavery. People are working every minute. The machinery is always going, even when you sleep. I don't like big moments, weddings, anniversaries, funerals. I like to play all things at the same level. When you run into someone you haven't seen in 20 years, the best thing is when you both play it cool. Very American. Don't get excited. Don't try to catch up. Maybe mention you're on your way to a movie, then tell you're on your way to dinner. But just be offhand. Just play it like it's no big deal. Like you just saw them yesterday and like you'll be seeing them all again tomorrow. But I always say, one's company, two's a crowd, three's a party. In the future, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. You should have contact with your closest friends through the most intimate and exclusive of all media, the telephone. When I die, I don't want to leave any leftovers. I'd like to disappear. People wouldn't say he died today, they'd say he disappeared. But I like the idea of people turning into dust or sand. It would be very glamorous to be reincarnated as a big ring on Elizabeth Taylor's finger. Before media, there used to be a physical limit on how much space one person could take up by themselves. People, I think, are the only things that know how to take up more space than the space they're actually in. Because with media, you can sit back and still let yourself fill up the space on records, in the movies, most exclusively on the telephone, exclusively on television. I never really understood why when you died, you didn't just vanish and everything could just keep going on the same way it was, only you just wouldn't be there. I always thought I'd like my own tombstone to be blank, no epitaph, and no name. Well, actually,